hey there. I almost didn't notice because of how comfortable I was in my eWin Gaming Racing chair. Today's video is sponsored by eWin Gaming Racing. And first and foremost, I want to say that the Flash XL Series chair that I'm using right now, heavy duty chair, completely adjustable, is the best gaming chair I've ever had. I've had other brands. I have another brand in my other room. I like this one the most. It's comfortable, adjustable, materials well, holds up well, feels good, looks good. And surprisingly, for a big chair, because this is the XL Series chair, it doesn't take up as much room as I thought. I thought it was going to be bigger, literally, which is not a bad thing because I fitted it perfectly, adjustable, and I love the chair. So big shout outs to eWin Gaming Racing. Definitely check them out if you're in the market for a chair. Look in the description below. You can use code KRASHY for 20% off. Definitely, if you're in the market, check it out. They have all kinds of deals and sales, all kinds of chairs, different colors, different materials. Oh, they even make desks. And I'm actually considering upgrading this desk at some point. So who knows? Maybe I'll be getting myself a desk from them as well. So big shout outs to them. Support me, support eWin Gaming Racing for supporting me and supporting the channel. And like I said, if you're in the market, check it out. These chairs are comfortable, man. Trust me. All right, let's dive into the tier list. All right. Here we are diving into the tier list. And you know what? I'm a changed man. I think it's time we start splitting the tier list. Chris Heroes this morning was talking about it on his stream, saying how he thinks it's more accurate. And you know what? I think it's time. It's time to do it. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to start off with the LANING tier list, and then we will refresh it, and we'll do one for the jungle. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this. So this is going to be new for me. So we're going to see how it goes and go from there. All right. So first and foremost, I'm probably just going to go straight down my list the way that I have it organized. We're going to start with Azumarill. As for LANING Azumarill, and this might be a bit of a scrambled tier list, but we're going to do my best. I think that Azumarill is pretty B+ tier, maybe. The character, it definitely isn't the strongest, but it's not the weakest. You can stack with it. It's definitely a top lane all-rounder. It's solid, right? It's an okay pick. I may end up moving some of these around because, like I said, this is my first time that I'm splitting the tier list. So forgive me if I do make a lot of changes, but I'll do my best to explain them all. As for Aegislash in this kind of a tier list, hold on, I need to hide one of my layers. Okay, as for Aegislash in the tier list, for laning, you know, I actually feel like Aegislash is okay. I feel like it's a little bit better than, say, Azumarill, but not that much better, and it's definitely not the strongest laner in the world. You can lane it fine, you can stack with it, it's just a little bit hard. It's definitely not that Lucario level of laning all-rounder, but Aegislash in general is very, very strong. I don't want to put it too high up here. I do think that the character itself is actually really strong, but for laning specifically, it's not the strongest thing in the world. This may get moved up, though. It may get moved up, but we're gonna leave it there for now. Dragonite laning it's rough. It's rough. Yeah, I think I have to put it down here because it's definitely not the worst character in the world, but securing farm on this character is not super easy. Dratini is just not really feeling it. Character scales pretty well and can do some good things with Hyper Beam and definitely can be strong, but when you're talking about laning, I feel like it's important to lean into the laning side of things, like the actual laning phase, and it is important to know the strengths of the characters when it comes to laning. So Dragonite, I don't know, laning wise, it just doesn't feel that strong. I don't know if it's that much worse than Azumarill, but inherently I think Azumarill is a little bit better. Serena, that said, Serena's a very strong laner. Very strong laner. You get a lot of value out of stacking on this character. Take it top lane, put that attack weight on it, go crazy. Like literally just go crazy with it. And then of course we have Lucario. Lucario is the S tier laner. I do think that it stands above. It's got crazy strength, crazy powerful. In solo duo queue, yeah, of course, it's not as easy to stack with, but the potential of the character is still there, and the stacking on this character is crazy. Everybody's had that Lucario or been the Lucario that goes to the enemy goal and just, you know, farms, stacks, farms, stacks, farms, stacks. You know, it's super annoying. Garchomp is, oh man, it's bad. It's bad in lane. I don't like it. I know that there have been Garchomp players out there that pull it off okay, but Garchomp itself is just not very strong. That's the other thing about tier list. It's not just the laning phase. It's about the actual relative strength of the Pokemon. It's not that strong, man. It might be lower than this. I may have to adjust for it a little bit just because the character strength is actually weaker, but the laning phase is not very good. So this could be down here. As I fill out the tier list more, we may make some changes there. Charizard, it truly is one of the worst laners in the game. It's bad. It's very, very bad. I think that you can get away with it if you're doing the laning stacking build, and honestly, the laning stacking build is probably like up here. If maybe, I don't know. It's so weird. I can't in good conscience recommend laning Charizard because it most of the time is just not very good. I think if you're playing at 1-1-3, it's kind of okay. And even then, it's still just relative to the other character options, it's not good. I think that I need to lean into what I know is the best thing to say here, which is that just Charizard in lane is just not the way, man. It's not the way. You're gonna have to just trust me on that. You really do. I don't know why it moved my Charizard back. Hey, Charizard, come here. Charizard, okay, cool. Charizard there. All right, Machamp. Machamp? Can I grab the Machamp? For some reason, it's not letting me. Okay, Machamp is definitely A plus tier. I don't quite feel like it's S tier like Lucario, but that's just because of the strength of Lucario personally, especially during the laning phase. But Machamp is a phenomenal laner. Karate chop, super strong. You can stack, get tons of value. Scale's great. Machamp is a phenomenal pick. All right, let's get into the attackers. This is where I got to get used to doing this kind of a tier list. Espeon is actually a really good attacker or laner, but the character is not very good. I'm thinking probably B plus tier. The character itself just isn't that strong, you know? It really isn't that strong. Oh man, I don't know where to put this. I think I'm going to put it B tier because the character lanes really, really well. It just does not scale, does not do enough damage. It's really as simple as that. The Rolodon is kind of the same thing. Like the character is just not super strong. It's okay in lane. You can definitely poke and be annoying, but the character it's decently strong, but you're just not going to get that much value out of it in lane. If you're going to play Rolodon, you mostly want to jungle it, in my opinion. Sylveon, pretty great laner, I think, is a pretty solid A tier. I don't think it's like the best laner in the world. It struggles a little bit early with its Eevee, but pretty solid and definitely scales super, super well. Ninetales, let me grab my Ninetales, is really, really strong. Really, really strong in lane, really annoying, super abusive. Solo duo Q is where this character shines. You don't see a ton of Ninetales or just like lane attackers that much in the meta in 5 stacks, but really, really strong. Bully, farms, steals, pokes, aggressive, incredibly strong. Greninja, worst laner in the game, probably. One of. Not even going to talk about it. It's just bad. Just don't do it. You can't secure farm. You can't scale. You're going to fall behind. Like, it's just really, really not great. Cramorant is very similar to that of other picks that we've talked about here. It's honestly not the worst thing in lane. It just doesn't scale super well. And my opinion of Cramorant is actually starting to improve. The more I'm seeing other people play it, the more I'm revisiting it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely struggling. Definitely needs some buffs. It's actually pretty good in lane. Like I think it may be a better laner than some of these Pokemon, but I think it doesn't scale as well per se. I don't know. I could see a case for this being made, but putting it above these all-rounders to me, or putting it above Dragonite, maybe doesn't seem right. Maybe I need to move Dragonite up, but for now, I just think it's like B. It's okay. You know, Cram is just okay. The laning phase is really, really good. The early phase is really good, but Cram as a whole is just not very strong. It comes to that. Cinderace, again, another terrible laner. You don't want to lane this Pokemon. It's crazy that, like, you know, really, really insanely strong characters can be really, really bad when it comes to lane. So don't do it, man. Just trust. You're not going to stick your farm. You're going to fall behind. You're going to get level locked. You're just going to have a bad time doing it. Pikachu, a lot like the other laners, I actually think has fallen down a little bit. You know, Pikachu used to be super strong, but it feels like Pikachu's not scaling into the end game as well as it used to. And as far as lane bullying goes, it's still there, and I like it, but I think I just currently prefer Ninetales more. Yeah, it's solid. Really, really solid pick. I'm not going to be doing as much as it felt like it used to. Maybe the meta has just shifted in that direction. Overall, it's a really solid laner, though. Why is my Photoshop's being weird? Venusaur. I actually do think that Venusaur is really great in lane. I think that Pikachu, ironically, for damage is better than Venusaur in lane, but Venusaur scales better. Venusaur, if you're going solar beaming, you can hit that level 7 and bully lane more. I know that's not really the laning phase, but like if you're holding a goal and you're farming or just like scaling into the late game with whatever Venusaur build, the character itself, in my opinion, is just better than Pikachu right now. And so even though I think that the bullying early on from Pikachu might be a little bit better as an overall lane pick, I think that Venusaur takes it. So Venusaur, very, very solid. Gardevoir is a pretty terrible laner. I don't know. This is where I got to figure out how to do this kind of a tier list. Keep in mind, this is my first time splitting the tier list, so bear with me if some of these picks look super weird. I'm figuring this one out. Because I think Gardevoir is way better than some of these Pokemon, but as a laner, it's just not very good. So, should I be judging the character's relative strength more or its ability to lane more? It's just not a great pick. I'm probably going to put it here, but it would be at the highest point of this tier, right? Because, and I'm not going to structure it like that, but it would be at the highest point of this B category, mostly just because the character actually does scale well and do good damage, but it just is terrible in lane, man. Maybe I should even put it lower just because of how bad it is in lane. Oh gosh, I don't know what to do with this character. It's here, the strength wise maybe up here. I don't know what to do with it. I'm gonna leave it in B. You let me know what you think in the comments down below. The character is just pretty meh. Decidueye is not like the worst thing in the world in lane, but it's not very good either. I don't actually think the character is very good. It's man, I'm running into some weird issues with this tier list. It's not great. It's an okay Pokemon. Yeah, I actually end up feeling like I'm gonna end up accidentally not using the C tier at all, and I'm gonna have to make some quick adjustments at the end. That's what I'm gonna end up having to do. Trevenant, really solid tank, defender, does good damage. Lanes pretty well, like really solid pick. Mamoswine actually lanes super well, but doesn't actually scale super well. So I think the problem with Mamoswine is that the character itself is just not the strongest. Do I want to put it here in B tier? Probably. Like it lanes really well, but it just doesn't scale well. So it's just kind of like a struggle pick right now. Crustle, kinda, if you're solo duo queuing and you're doing like a damage build, it's like okay. But overall, I just think Crustle is like fairly weak, and it can lane pretty decently, and it can kind of scale okay. And like I said, if you're doing a damage build, it's okay for solo duo queue. But overall, the Pokemon's just not really that strong. You would definitely have a better time just picking something else. This maybe feels a little too low to me, though. Maybe not. I don't know. This feels okay. This kind of a split tier list is super weird to me. Like I said, I gotta get used to it. Greedent, solid A+ tier. Maybe could even consider it S tier for laning by some. Really aggressive. You can score, you can stack on it, you can get out for free. It's pretty crazy. Snorlax, ironic enough, is very good in lane, but is just a terrible Pokemon pick. And this is where it's weird because, like, again, relative strength is... We have to talk about the laning. Man, it's so hard to do this tier list. I would love to know your thoughts on how to structure this kind of a tier list, because relative strength-wise, these characters outscale the hell out of some of these other on the list, but laning-wise, they're terrible, and it puts you at such a disadvantage you just shouldn't do it. So I think I need to lean more into laning. So let me think about this. These characters all lane super well. They lane super well, and then we start talking about relative strength here, why I put them a little bit lower. Lanes pretty decently. Yeah, like, I don't know, some of these characters just lane so poorly. Like Gardevoir, I think Gardevoir, I can't put her at the same level as Snorlax. Maybe I can, because she's honestly kind of terrible at laning. Maybe I do put this Pokemon here, because the character just, like, is so bad at laning. I actually think that some of these other characters are just better at laning than she is, even though I don't think it's like that much better. Like Decidueye, like, honestly shouldn't be in lane, but at least you can like bully top lane and like stop stacking and stuff. But honestly, it's pretty bad too. Honestly, this feels a little bit better to me. Like I said, let me know your thoughts. I'm figuring out the structure of this tier list a little bit. So yeah, these characters just are not great laners. It is what it is. It is what it is. But Slowbro is a good laner. It can definitely get the job done. I think it's like a pretty solid A+ or A tier laner. You can secure farm with Water Gun. You scale into the late game well. You're a solid tank. Yeah, really solid pick in the current meta. Blastoise does not lane well almost at all. It's a rough lane pick, but it scales well. It's not the worst thing in the world laning, especially if you're doing solo duo queue, because 5 stacks you would never lane this character. It's not the worst thing in the world. And it scales well. So that's what's kind of holding its position up. If it didn't scale well, if it didn't do good damage, then it wouldn't be this high up at all. But the Pokemon is pretty strong still, like decently strong. And yeah, that's what I think about it. All right, we're hitting the speedsters now. Talonflame honestly should probably never. It should probably never lane. you can stack with it and you can be that Talonflame, but you're not going to get a ton of value out of it, I don't think. So yeah, Talonflame I'm going to put there. As for Gengar lane, oh man, I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world, and it does scale well, but I'm also just not a huge fan of it, and I don't have a lot of confidence in it. So it just kind of hits this B tier where, like, yeah, this B tier is almost like these characters can be good in the right context, but like as far as laning goes, I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't think they're that great, so this is kind of where I put them. I almost want to move Crustle up to B+ tier if I'm being honest, but yeah. Zeraora is underrated. Zeraora is underrated. Someone's going to call me crazy for this, but it can honestly lane okay. It's a strong Pokemon. It scales well. The problem is the levels. I want to, like, I feel like I have to start preaching the word of Zeraora again because the character is really strong. Pokemon's really strong. It just doesn't have the levels, man. It doesn't have the levels, and it takes so long to ramp this character up. So the early game in the laning phase is actually not very good. You don't really hit power spikes. But you can secure some farm with Slash, I think it is, and you have some mobility with agility, and it's not that bad. You're just not super strong. But I actually think that it's a better laner than some of these other Pokemon. And yeah, I gotta give it that. This is making me want to pull Espeon up a little bit. I'll consider that. Absol's an amazing laner. I think Absol is, especially for solo duo queue, is actually just really good. I didn't used to believe in the lane Absol, but I've been shown the light. It's pretty freaking solid. A+ tier. It feels really, really good in solo queue. And yeah, Absol's just strong. Absol is just really, really strong. All right, we're moving on to supports, and then I'm going to kind of review this list because this video is probably going to be a little bit longer than I'm used to. Hoopa, super, it's insane. Like in solo queue, obviously playing a support character, you guys know how it goes. It's, you know, at your own risk. But the character is actually very, very strong and lanes very well. Mr. Mime. See, this is weird because this character probably lanes okay, but the character's not very good. So I don't know, just like bottom of B tier or something. That's like the best I know what to do with it. Again, give me your thoughts on this tier list because I'm figuring this one out. Eldegoss, really solid. It's strong. It's outshined by Hoopa, but it is very strong. Wigglytuff has taken a hit in the meta a little bit, but I don't think it's actually that bad. Especially in solo queue because you don't know if they're always just going to have the counter to this Pokemon. So it's still a pretty solid Pokemon. You have to play with friends to even get any value out of this. So if you're picking it, you can pick it. I think it's a decent pick, but it's not the best pick in the meta, but it lanes well. It brings value. It just gets counterpicked. And specifically by this Pokemon, Blissey. Blissey's insane. She's broken. She's probably the best Pokemon in the game next to Hoopa and Lucario. Lanes obviously phenomenally. You have to play it with a friend to really get value out of it. I mean, I guess you could play it and get value out of it, but to guarantee value out of your teammates, you gotta play with a friend. So let me look at this really quickly because I know that this video is gonna go long. I feel mostly comfortable with it. I would probably move some small things here and there, but I think that we get the point, right? I'm trying to find the line of these Pokemon are good, but in lane they're not. Because if I just looked at relative strength, then like the D tier would make no sense, right? But it does make sense because picking those characters in lane, you're literally asking to lose the game. Or at least you're asking to lose the early game. And I just don't think that that's the way to go. So let me know your thoughts on the lane tier list. Let's go ahead and wipe this out. And we are going to go to the jungle tier list. All right. So swap my text. Jungle tier list. Let's do it. Azumarill jungle. Hold on. Wrong group. Azumarill jungle is not the worst thing in the world, but there's just so many better picks. I'm probably going to put it here. Again, I'm probably going to shift some things around. Yeah, you kind of get the point. This character does well with attack weight too, so jungling it, just not the best thing in the world, in my opinion. Aegislash, this is where this Pokemon shines. It shines in the jungle. Super, super aggressive. When it comes out with ganks, it does amazing with levels. Aegislash is really solid. Dragonite, I think, is super, super solid right now in the meta. I don't think it's quite that A+ tier level, but you put this character, you don't have to worry about the laning phase, you get to come out with your levels, you push yourself towards Hyper Beam, you start securing objectives. Really, really solid. I'm going to go a little bit faster on this one. Serena Jungle is not bad, but I don't know if it's necessary. That said, Serena's good, but I actually think that Dragonite Jungle specifically is better, and you'll get more value out of it. So Serena Jungle can definitely work. but it's not that strong because you just don't need her in jungle. Really just how I think about it. And honestly, as far as Lucario goes, it's the same thing. First of all, talking about Lucario jungle feels weird. And when it comes to solo queue, it just makes no sense to do it. But it's not strong. So I don't want to put it like, oh, you should never Lucario jungle, right? Like, no, I don't think that that's the case. It's just, there's not really a reason to do it. But as far as its strength, yeah, you can come out with E-Speed on first Bs guaranteed. So in solo queue, do you know how crazy that is? Like, that's actually really strong. So yeah, that's what I think about it. Garchomp jungle. You know, I don't know if I think it's that much worse than Azumarill jungle. Kind of think B is where the big fall off starts to happen. Garchomp jungle is better than the Garchomp lane. Garchomp is just not good. So it is what it is, sadly. This is the best case scenario for this character, I think. As far as Charizard jungle goes, I think it's phenomenal. You have to figure out this character's ult. And when I say you, I mean they, because this character's ult sucks, but very, very strong Pokemon can carry games. Machamp jungle is basically the same thing. Like, the reason why these characters are sitting here is because they're such phenomenal laners. You can jungle it great. You can have great pop-off games, but you can also put this character in the lane with an attack weight and pop off harder. So, yeah. Espeon jungle, no. You know, no. Yeah, like, there's no reason, you know? There's no reason to do it, really. The Rolodon jungle. This is an interesting one. I don't quite think it's A tier because I don't think the character is that strong, but it's not a bad character. I just think it's going to fall much more in the B+ tier. The strong jungler. You just don't, there's better picks, and so I think it's a better jungler than some of these all-rounders to its left because they should just be played in lane, but it's not the best pick. So there's definitely better junglers, but Rolodon, pretty solid. Sylveon jungle, see, this is gonna, like, when we're talking about solo, duo, trio queue, this is where this opinion's weird, because I think competitive, like doing split Sylveon jungles, jungle Sylveons, makes a little bit more sense. In solo queue, it just doesn't really make that much sense, but it's not terrible. The Pokemon's good, you get it free levels, you can get to level 8 fast. It's not terrible, it just doesn't, you don't need it. It doesn't really make much sense. Espeon's just not strong enough, so I'm gonna put Sylveon a little bit ahead of it. Alolan Ninetales jungle, it's basically the same thing. Like, you can actually jungle this Pokemon fine, but these characters that are actually strong get pushed down these kinds of lists when you separate the list because it doesn't make sense to do it. So Lucario is an S tier Pokemon, but gets shoved down because of jungle, and Ninetales is like an A+ Pokemon in my opinion that gets shoved down because of jungle. So yeah, we'll go with that. Greninja, yes. D tier laner, S tier jungler. Congratulations, Greninja, you pop off, you hard carry games. You make me want jungle to get nerfed. Cramorant jungle. It's kind of the same thing, and now I know what you're saying. Well, GG played Cramorant. I don't know why they play Cramorant. It's a comfort pick for them. They like it. It's good. They work it. But for solo queue, it's the same thing. Like, I just don't think it makes any sense to cram jungle. I don't know why I put it in B+ tier. It doesn't make much sense to cram jungle, but it honestly does jungle just fine. Maybe even better than Duraludon. I don't know. That's an interesting question there. But I'm going to put it in the B tier. You just don't need to jungle this character. It's good in lane, and the character's kind of good. It is what it is. Cinderace, this is still an S tier jungler. I think that Greninja kind of edges it out a little bit, but Cinderace pops off, hard carries games. Very, 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 very strong. Pikachu is another lane attacker. You know what it is. Like, there's just not really a reason to jungle this character. So, yeah, you just lane that character. As for Venusaur, Venusaur can jungle very well. Not the best jungler in the world, but it definitely hits up there. Petal Giga, you get levels on it, you push yourself to 13 faster. You can carry games with Venusaur jungle. It's again, not the best jungler in the world. You probably shouldn't do it, but for solo duo trio queue, Venusaur jungle's fine. Competitive, I think that's where Venu jungle doesn't get played very much, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking. As for Gardevoir jungle, it's basically the same thing. It's like, it's not the strongest Pokemon in the meta, but it is a strong Pokemon, and it's very good in jungle. Definitely has a reason to be picked because it can't really lane very well. Gardevoir, pretty good, pretty solid, I would say. Decidueye, I just don't think Decidueye is very strong right now. It is best in jungle, but I think that its ceiling in terms of potential, what it can actually do, is just not that high. So it kind of sits on the likes of like Duraludon. Like, they're both decent junglers. That's where they should most likely be played, but it's not the strongest pick in the meta right now. So Decidueye chilling in the B+ tier. As for tanks, I just don't know. Is this how I do the list? it just doesn't make any sense to do it. Like, you could jungle this Pokemon, and honestly, I was gonna say, would Jungle Trevenant be better than Jungle Pikachu? Probably not, actually. I just don't think jungling tanks makes that much sense. It just doesn't. You know, you don't really need to do it, and I'm probably gonna have to put these Pokemon in D tier. I really don't even know. Like, I don't even think it'd be that bad. There's just absolutely no reason to do it. There's no reason to do it. Honestly, Greedent could probably sit here, because I think Greedent's strong enough to just, like, if you're gonna put levels on it, I guess. But at that point, you're not even stacking your attack away. This is getting real weird. This is getting real. This is where the tier list is getting real weird. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like speed rounding it, because I actually think that this is a decent thing to do. Blastoise can actually jungle. Yeah, I think Blastoise, surprisingly, it may be Blastoise in terms of solo duo queue. It may be Blastoise's best role as jungle. Man, this is weird. Okay, let me take a pause for a second here. Snorlax hits the D tier in terms of jungling because Snorlax is terrible and you should never jungle it. C tier is basically the tier where I'm still saying you should never jungle it, but is like more about relative strength. So I think that most of those characters are literally just better than Snorlax, but you shouldn't jungle them. And Greedent only slightly beats them because, like, I guess it kind of makes sense because of, like, Greedent invade, and or just because I've jungled Greedent. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you shouldn't really do it. And then Blastoise, I actually do think is a good jungler. I really do. I don't think you should play it over a lot of other picks, and it's probably at the lower side of the A tier, maybe kind of like tied with Gardevoir, but it can get some value. You can get some levels on it, and you can do some good damage. So yeah, I think I speed rounded the defender tree. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because that was weird. Talonflame, it's okay. It's like the highest of B plus tier or the lowest of A tier, right? And I don't feel comfortable putting it in this tier right now. So I think that it's just better than a lot of these B plus tiers. Here, I'll even sit it up on the line a little bit. It's a good jungle pick, but it's just not the strongest Pokemon right now. So it's definitely better than picking some of the other options on the roster, because again, once you hit like B tier and below, and even some of B plus tier and below, it just makes no sense to jungle some of these Pokemon. So Talonflame just kind of like barely sticks his head over this pack and is like trying to get into A tier, but he can't quite do it. As for Gengar, Gengar is phenomenal in solo duo queue. I really don't think it's the best pick in the world, but when it comes to snowballing solo duo trio, Gengar jungle is very, 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 very strong. Zeraora jungle. Oh, Zeraora, why do you do this to me, man? This is another one of those that is like, it's like Talon here, and the only reason I can say that, because people are gonna be like, you think Talon is the same viability as Zeraora, is because this character is actually strong. And if you're gonna play this character, I like laning it for 5 stacks, but that's its own completely different topic. You have to hit 10 on this character, so jungling it is probably the best you can get. It's at probably the peak of B tier, or even tied with some of these all-rounders, because these all-rounders are actually just strong. Zeraora is strong, it just takes such a long time to get there. So I feel like in good conscience I can't put him higher than this tier, but I almost want to. He's just about to break an A tier. If he had levels, man, this character might even fly up higher than that, but he doesn't. He doesn't have levels. Absol is crazy. He's really, really strong for solo duo trio queue. It's very, very strong jungle pick, strong laner, strong character, strong ability to carry games, and things of that nature. Hoopa. No. Mime. No. You know, sure. I'll do it. I'll do it for y'all. Eldegoss can be a B tier jungler. You know? Wiggly, C tier jungler. Blissey is a no. I'm not gonna lie, anything C and below is nonsensical. Don't even try to read into it. Don't ask me why I put Wiggly in C tier. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even know why I put it in C tier. I just think it would be better to Wiggly jungle than to Mime or Hoopa jungle. That's the only reason I did it, and it would be better to Wiggly jungle than to Blissey jungle, and it'd be better to Wiggly jungle than to Snorlax jungle. And honestly, that might not even be true. Blissey jungle's like right here. This is so stupid. I need to pull Espeon up. I need to pull Espeon up so bad. Hold on. I'm not going to do it. Okay, this is the tier list. This is super new for me to split the jungle and the lane tier list. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. This video is super long. I did my best with it. I'll get better at these as I kind of get the patterns of like, I understand where I want to do it, like how I want to do it. This is just what I'm thinking for now, so bear with me, friends. Thank you so much for watching this video. I definitely do appreciate it. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel for future Pokemon Unite content. As always, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone you love them, and I'll see you in the next video.